if you'll give my honored guests a round of applause as they take their seats to go to infinity and beyond, way beyond algorithms. Welcome. It's nice to see our final guest in real life. You'll know that joke means something in a minute, but actually, let me just go around and just show you who's who. Dr. Bedour AlRayes needs little introduction, the Deputy CEO of the Human Capability Development Program. Very nice to see you again,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Bedour.
Eli.
Thank you for your hospitality. Now then, next to Dr. Bedour is Professor Arturo Bris, who is the director of the IMD World Competitiveness Center out of Switzerland. Welcome, Arturo. Dr. Roemmelt is the CEO of Udacity. So again, very well known, but this is about skilling up, isn't it?
Exactly.
Give us a sense of what's on the Udacity platform these days.
Oh, I mean, we have lots of new things. We obviously tons of content on AI. I think about 30% of our content that's being consumed on our platform today has moved to AI.
Right, so this is course central, basically.
That's course-centric, deep learning, hands-on keyboard skills.
All right, so meanwhile, Tami Rosen is the Chief Development Officer and Chair of the Advisory Board and a board member of Pagaya, based out of the United States. But this is all things fintech, Tami, really?
Definitely. Yes, we're in the consumer credit space.
Now, meanwhile,
using AI.
Using AI, right. Well, I want to hear how you're deploying it and how you're upskilling your humans as well in a minute. Gary Sorrentino completes our lineup. He is the Chief Information Officer at Zoom, based out of the United States, but coming to a screen near you. He completes our lineup. Well, why don't we put the script to one side, because this question's been bothering me. What's one skill or one thing that, however clever the technology, you think a human capability that AI will never be able to replace? Who shall I pick on first? Tami.
So glad you did. So I would say resilience and the ability to grow through adversity. When you think about AI, it's really good at optimizing failure, but not growing through it. And humans have this incredible capability of dealing with loss and rejection and challenge and turning that into a strength, being more wise. And that transformation from going from struggling to strength is uniquely human.
All right, I'm warning you, honored guest, every answer here is going to make us want to dig more, but that's not the point of this round. Dr. Bedour.
Human capabilities is values, skills, and knowledge. I don't think AI will combine these three together.
Fascinating. So it's that no one element, but it's the combination. Gary.
I think it's imagination. I mean, think about it. AI can take data, it can rethink it, it can repredict it, but only a human can imagine what has never happened before.
Love that. So it's not basing it on the past, it's that leap. I had a movie maker here who I'm sure would agree with that. Arturo.
I would say revolutionary mistakes. That is, we tend to think that the AI cannot replace creativity. But I think what AI cannot replace is our ability to make huge mistakes that lead to revolutions. I tell you one example. Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, you know, I'm a musician, but Rhapsody in Blue was the result of a massive mistake made by a clarinet player.
Is that right?
This is something that AI cannot
It's fascinating. This is such a cool point, because when the AI gets it wrong, we call it out, we laugh, we roll around, we say, it's made a mistake. And yet in humans...
One of the largest innovations by Switzerland, Velcro, you know, it's not very, but Velcro was the result of a mistake.
Right, I'm going to write this on a post-it note, but that's a separate story for another innovation session. Now, finally, Kai.
I think my response is going to be very close to what you've just said. Is I think what AI is not good at is breaking a pattern. And sometimes, you know, you see there's the rational response, there's what you would expect, and sometimes to make the conscious decision to go into a different direction.
Right, so the challenge is set, because I think that gives us a shot as a species, right? So the question is, and I'm going to deliberately move around pretty swiftly here, but Dr. Bedour, just help us understand then how the Human Capability Development Program can prepare citizens, particularly for success in what I'm thinking of as AI-augmented industries.
Thank you, Eli. And I would like to welcome everyone in the stage and my dearest panelists. Really welcome you to HCI in Riyadh and Saudi Arabia. So Human Capability Development Program is one of Saudi Vision 2030 programs. The aim of the program is globally competitive citizen, or how we bring globally competitive citizens and prepare them. The way we do that by instilling values, developing basic and future skills, and also developing knowledge. And this is why we do that from early childhood to lifelong learning. And we base on 3 pillars. So we develop basic and educational base for the early childhood and K-12. And we move to prepare the future for long and for the future local and global market, and then the lifelong learning. So we do that through journey. And the important thing about it, it's where the AI comes. So what we do in the Human Capability Program, that we segregate, or we do differentiation between basic skills and future skills. Yes. Basic skills is in numeracy, literacy, and digital literacy. And here is where AI comes. So, and we just not do that. When the future skills, we do the high order thinking skills, we do the emotional skills, we do the group, the leadership, and also we do the practical skills. But let me talk about maybe the basic skills or the AI where it comes. So we do 3 things. We do how people can recognize AI, how people can use AI, and how people can also, after that, learn AI. Yes. And what we mean, recognize AI, so the most population have to know what is AI, what is going on, what is the future of AI. And the people who, the secondary, it's how people recognize or use AI, which is where we use it everyday life, the tools we use in everyday, in education, and even in a job. Yes. The third one is how to learn AI, here where the specialists come, the AI specialist, the expert. So these are the 3 things we are working in the human.
Let's go on to that third one. Kai, I'm going to jump across, because in a sense, you've got a heat map of what's hot and how people are upskilling themselves. So just give us a sense of what those most critical skills are. What's your dashboard telling you?
So I think there's the range of skills that are really critical. I think the first one is the right interrogation skills. So how do I need to drill into an AI system? What are the different skills of different AI systems? How can I combine the models to drive the right results? And how can I dig deeper and further to get to where I want to be? I think the second aspect that's really important is, and we subsume it under a term that we call ethical AI, but I think it's much more than that, is understanding the shortcomings of AI models. Mm-hmm. And where do AI models get it wrong? Mm-hmm. And that can be because it relies on the wrong input data, or kind of there's mistakes in the data that it takes on. So I think really understanding what is the data that makes up an AI model, what are AI models good at predicting, and where are the areas where I need to be a bit cautious and make the right judgment calls in terms of results.
But on your first point, there's a parallel, because isn't it the case that the skills that lead us to be better prompters will also lead us to be better conversationalists and listeners?
Exactly.
And I think that connection is very profound. Now then, tell us, Arturo, how are countries tackling this? How are they positioning themselves to be competitive in this space? Because again, you've got the globe spinning in front of you.
Yes, and I love the use of competitiveness as a goal, because we always need to remember that competitiveness is prosperity.
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, when you look at the most competitive countries in terms of AI applications, including Saudi Arabia, I think they do 3 things. One is talent development, from kindergarten to senior executives, because that's one problem. Second one is capital provision. We need money. Actually, the US and China dominate today because they have access to capital. And the third one is regulation. Europe is dominating today on that front. We need better regulation, because some countries like the US regulate too little or too much.
Yes.
And other countries, like for example in China, they don't have rule of law. So we need to have good regulation.
So just remind us, though, the nub of your work, what do you have to be very good at the competitive center in order to know you've done a good job?
So you need to be extremely good at looking at what the ultimate objective of any technology is, which at the end of the day is to improve the quality of life of people. It's not about selling more products, or it's not about just making more money. It's about creating more jobs, for example. This is a challenge with AI. So to what extent?
Well, what's the ultimate objective of education in that case?
The ultimate objective of education is make sure that people live good lives.
Right, so this should be a separate panel. Tami, no pressure. You're putting this into action in the workplace. So help us to join the dots, because we've got the global picture. We've got a sense of what people are doing to upskill. How's it working in practice?
You know, it's interesting because companies are based on much more rigid structures today, and they need to be more dynamic and skills-based. And you know, if you think about, imagine what that workforce is going to look like, and imagine what company structures are going to look like, very different. They're not going to have an org structure with boxes and jobs. There's going to be much more, you know, horizontal than vertical. Yes. And that's going to demand us to think differently. And so as I think about it, it's, you know, you can't foolproof jobs, but you can people. Right. So let's talk about examples from some companies that what they're doing. I love that Amazon's investing $1 billion with 300,000 people across data, cloud, and machine learning, and they're looking at it more as not skills for your job, but transferable skills.
Yes.
Then you have like Microsoft that's saying it's the tech intensity and this growth mindset, and they're creating through LinkedIn Learning and Microsoft Learn personalized skills training for people.
So this is fascinating. So I want more examples on this, Tami. But Gary, it does get us thinking, doesn't it? This is about how we connect with each other. This is about how we communicate. So how do you think technologies can, what Tami's saying is it can help, what's happening is a redesign.
We're actually seeing that redesign right now go on. One of the largest US insurance companies have lowered their levels from 15 to 5. So technology is just crashing through hierarchies. It's now flattening out organizations. But things are changing. Leadership is no longer coming from an org chart. It's coming from influencers. It's coming from where knowledge sits. It's actually employees are self-checking each other with social contracts between them. We're now seeing that we don't do work by org charts. We do work by projects now. Yeah. And they're happening on a global basis because where we're sitting doesn't matter anymore. As long as we all have the same skills and tools that we can connect. Look, if I'm in a building and there's a meeting 2 floors away, I probably joined from my office, okay? I'm still remote, but I'm in the same building. Yes. So it doesn't matter, I could be on the other side of the globe just working late from home. So we have changed that whole way that people work, and now it's becoming more about the work than it is about the org or the way we used to work.
So this is fascinating, isn't it? Going back to the humans technology point, because when it comes to communication, a meeting, what Zoom became world famous for, is just one form of communication. So what is the fundamental best point of a meeting? Obviously it depends, but it's a question we have to ask, isn't it? Because we don't want to waste time.
I think that the goal is to set the meetings up correctly. And I think it's all about architecting the way people work correctly. And I think that that's what companies are struggling with a little bit. There's still fear, there's still FOMO. All those words still exist in people's lives. Look, how many times have we been on a meeting? 9 boxes, 8 people don't talk, 7 people don't talk.
Yes.
And so it's, how do we change that fundamental feeling that, you know what? AI will give me the summary. I'm kind of great reading that summary. Probably I'm supposed to be in a meeting now, somewhere in the world, but I'm waiting to read the summary later.
You'll read the summary. It might have even polished it up.
Maybe. I might even learn more.
Well, I thought for the last 6 months that Google was offering to do something in Polish for me. Turns out it was Polish. There you go. Now, I do want, Dr. Bedour, I'm coming back to you momentarily, but Tami, close to home at Pagaya, is there an example where the technology has changed how you're structuring yourselves? Because we love it to come firsthand.
You know, I think it's, the technology is going to coexist with the humans, right? And I think the first thing you have to do is change your culture as a company. And so what we've done at Pagaya is we've centered everything around learning. Yeah. And we've thrown out traditional things like performance reviews and replaced them with learning cycles to teach learning agility.
Interesting.
How to work through failures and how to actually marry your goals with development and learning.
Right, so on this, something, Dr. Bedour, that Arturo has hinted at is this sense of connectivity through the life cycle, through the generations. So what are some of the most effective strategies, particularly for building that sense of adaptability, the continuous learning, so that individuals don't fall through the cracks.
Exactly, and the Human Capability Development Program is an example of that. So we take the journey from early childhood to lifelong learning, even after retirement. So what we do, we develop projects, and these projects, for example, in early childhood and K-12, how we develop curriculum, how we develop teachers, how we nudge the parents to take care of their kids in order to think them what they will do in the future. Also, when we go in the universities and vocational, we do the same. So it's a continuous journey. In the vocational and universities, we make sure that the demand and supply are aligned. So education is aligned with university of the JO labor market. When we go to the lifelong learning, we see that upskilling and reskilling is very important. Micro, nano degrees, small courses,
Yes.
Udacity, Coursera, and other skills, they have a good platforms to do that. So it's lifelong learning. But maybe, Uli, it's an important thing to say, doing a project itself, it will not benefit as monitoring that. So we have a KPIs to monitor all these projects, and we have KPIs, national KPIs, to see how the progress of these projects in terms of...
So this is fascinating, isn't it,
Yeah.
Arturo? Because what we're seeing here, and actually, Dr. Bedour, just help me understand, because in some countries, you just have a series of relationships between organizations. To what extent is there a relationship that underpins that stays by the learner's side? I'm just trying to get my head around that.
Yes, exactly. So you cannot, it's a unified journey. You don't see who's doing, but at the end, the human capability is the heart of that.
It does feel, Arturo, like a world leader in that sense. What are you seeing elsewhere? Who's doing well? And are there any particular milestones we should watch out for that you see coming down the track?
Yeah, I'm worried about two things that are related. One, and they're about inclusion. I think we cannot now, in the short term, we cannot leave some countries behind. I think I'm thinking of countries in Africa or other developing economies. Because we may end up creating a massive divide. But also within countries, and that's interesting as well, is that I'm afraid of leaving an entire generation behind. I think we do very well with the young, but you know, the 55 plus and the 60 plus, I think we face the risk of leaving an entire group of the population behind. Which
Right, lifelong doesn't mean lifelong until you retire. And we're reconsidering what that word means, right? So who else is doing this well? Who could we learn from?
Yes, I think Saudi Arabia is definitely one country. I look at the examples of small countries, but it's much easier to do that in Denmark or in Estonia or in Singapore. So those are the countries
So what I don't want to lose that point about countries getting left behind, but if we're just imagining Tami and Kai, we've got ministers of education here. How do you think that we should be redesigning education? Because you're the education experts in a sense. Kai, then Tami.
So I think when I look at higher education, like the comparison that I like to draw is higher education is built to research on the climate and really understand what are the long-term trends, where are things moving, and really dig deep into that scientifically. I think when we look at what's happening in terms of practical skills, I like to compare that to the weather. So even if we understand the climate, but you know what, at the end of the day, it might rain tomorrow, we still need an umbrella, and if it rains, we need that quick. And higher education is not built for that speed of training, just in terms of like how content refresh cycles, like how, just the way that higher education is set up, that's just not what it's built for. So I think and we see this, that we work together with a number of universities around the world, where we actually bring that element of technical skills into the classroom.
Interesting. And we had on this stage yesterday, for example, the Dean of the London Business reflecting on exactly this challenge. Tami, what would you add?
You know, I think that higher education had an opportunity in COVID to really redesign itself, and they missed that opportunity. And back to what you were saying, it's how you work, not where you work. And they didn't change that fundamentally. I had the fortune of working with a school at USC called the Jimmy Iovine Dr. Dre School when they started. And what that school did was created multidisciplinary. They broke down the lines of how you get educated. You didn't have to have the 101, the 201. You didn't have to be just a technologist or a business person. They blended arts, technology, and business and called it a degree in disruption.
Right.
And that teaches higher level thinking and teaches what we need in this AI revolution.
So it's that higher level thinking. I mean, Gary, I wasn't planning to ask you about the future of education, but I am going to, because listening to our guests, I wonder if there are clues from hybrid working, from new ways of communicating that you actually think could be cross-pollinated here.
Yeah, well, look, the way that we learn is going to change completely, right? Finally, in our world, technology is meeting the learner, which is we're not telling the learners how to adapt to our systems. Yeah. We're adapting systems to them now. And I think that's where we're going to see the change. Technology right now is something that's finding out what the right place to fit and finding its home there. And too many times before, we've always set the guidelines up, one size fits all, right? Yeah. Isn't it great that we finally have a technology where everybody can learn individually? And I think that's the secret going forward is we're all individuals and we all learn a different way. Some of us learn by reading, some of us learn by looking, some of us learn by hearing, some of us learn through TikTok at the end of the day. But since we all learn a different way, isn't it great that we can teach the same subject in a different way?
It is, except Gary and Tami, just briefly here, if Gary's onto something, which we think he is, and I say, well, actually, I'm treating Gary completely differently because Gary is different. In fact, we're all different. And Kai says, that's not fair. We should all be treated the same. Well, Gary, you're shaking your head.
Well, because the difference between equitable and equity, right? At the end of the day, we've always been, we want to be very equitable so everybody gets the same. Today, it's about equity, right? What do I need? And that's important.
All right, all right. Now, speaking of Dr. Dre, it is almost a wrap here on stage. Let's go back to this challenge of not reflecting in 10 years that we left too many people behind. A final word on what we need to do more of. And I'll finish with you, Dr. Bedour. But Gary, let's pick up on that of leaving people behind. This isn't just about the privileged.
It has to be about being curious. We have to get over this fear. We have to set the guardrails up where people can feel that they can be curious and successful. And I think when we make people curious, we are going to get ideas we've never even fathomed before, right?
Curiouser and curiouser. Right. Thank you, Gary. Tami.
I think it's about what makes us human and the superpowers we have of, creativity, curiosity, adaptability, all of those different judgment, and really embracing that as really the key. And learning, I'm all about learning, so it's learning agility at the end of the day.
Right, so that whole thought of taking risks with ideas, the power of making mistakes, the humility to go again.
And allowing to fail in a safe environment so you can actually learn.
On that thought of extending our connection, Kai, a final thought.
Yes, I think, look, we talked a lot about AI and the skills. I think the complexity of the human mind in pulling all of that together is still what's going to make us thrive in the future. Now, we're just going to be able to do that with the leverage of these incredible AI models and what they allow us to do.
Yeah, thank you for giving us a glimpse of that today. Arturo.
Yeah, even though it is difficult today, I think countries need to collaborate more. I think collaboration is going to be paramount in the next years to make good decisions at a global level.
Yeah, and we're very fortunate with this summit. This is literally what we're in the process of doing. So thank you for allowing us to do that. Dr. Bedour and colleagues, a final thought.
I think the themes of the HCI is learn, belong, and act if you use these. Yeah. Plus that we always think we will be beyond readiness. This is the future of humanities.
Yeah, and what would you say, just finally, Dr. Bedour, to somebody who's not been able to be here or tune in yet, as a call to why they should join this summit? What would you say to the leaders around the world?
Yeah, I think even if you didn't get the chance to be physically here, the streaming online is available, so you can go online and watch it last year and this year. We're looking forward this year, and we have a lot of, it's a stage that every expert, private sector, public sector, NGOs coming together, they share human capabilities issues, and they find a solution for that, either policies or solution, and they move forward.
First class. Well, we'll learn all about it on Udacity. Other platforms are available. We'll see all about it on Zoom. Other platforms are available. We're very grateful for your work at the Competitive Center and, of course, all the work you're doing at Pagaya. So all sorts of pay it forward is the spirit of this forum. To each and every one of our guests, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, as they leave the stage in this direction, thank you.